I just want to say hello and thank you to all of my Patreon subscribers. My name is Dr. Peter Duchemin, as I'm sure you know. And if you are subscribing to my Patreon, you probably noticed that in the last month I've posted next to nothing. And so, first and foremost, I want to put out an apology um, to those of you who have signed up and expected more content. I am not the sort of person that likes excuses, so I won't give you any. Um, what I'll do instead is I will come back to you with a pledge. I've been giving a great deal of thoughts to what direction to take the Patreon. Because to be honest, when I started it for me, it was uncertain where I was going to go with it. I knew that I wanted to start a magic school. I knew that I wanted a place to show the behind the scenes, the behind the scenes kind of stuff to what's going on with my work. And I know that for everyone, it's not entirely obvious what it is that I'm up to. I have numerous accounts, and I'm posting art, and I'm posting philosophy, and I'm giving classes. But my sense is that it's the unifying features, which I know that you can intuit, but they're not obvious. And I haven't really delivered a an in-depth look at what unifies this particular vision of magic. And you'll note that I call it meta magic, and I call it meta magic for a reason. I first heard the term from Douglas Hofstadter's book, Metamagic Themis, Metamagical Themis. And Douglas Hofstadter is a very interesting guy. He works with strange loops and paradoxes and multidimensional objects from a philosophical and a recreational mathematical point of view. And he called it metamagic. And I've come to call what we do metamagic as well, because I mean, as a sleight of hand performer, as a magician, for many years I had a very kind of rationalist approach. I wouldn't say reductivist, because I'd never been much of a reductivist. But my explorations of the esoteric were always, we'll say, tempered by my understanding that in many cases miraculous appearances have a hidden mechanical cause. So when I wrote my PhD thesis, it was called The Art of Hidden Causation. And I went very, very deeply into how esoteric experiences may be considered a type of hidden causation, where deep mediative factors in our psyche, such as the structure of our metaphor networks and so forth, enable the perception of extraordinary kinds of, we'll say, gnosis, or supernatural paranormal experience. And so the word metamagic resurfaced there for me as a description of the type of magic, and it is magic, but it's a type of magic that emerges once the reductive exercise of scientific exclusivist rationalism has run its course, and the next envelope of awareness has emerged. What does that mean? Well, that means basically that I recognize the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution as a phase in the development of the human psyche that enabled it to differentiate itself from the previous kind of associative ways of thinking, mystical and magical, and did so often very hostilely. So drawing from Descartes, particularly in the radical doubt experiments, a radical othering of the ambiguous, right? So the scientific revolution was predicated on things being rendered unambiguous through a process of isolative experiment. But what we learned is that the fallout from these isolative experiments is a kind of assemblage of factoids that require reassembling in order to form paradigms. So we get these paradigms. And Thomas Kuhn, of course, pointed out the scientific revolutions are not purely rationalistic. They have these underlying kind of unfalsifiable um, milieus that structure the worldview that emerges out of the factoids that are produced. So what happens in this paradigmatics? Uh, the paradigmatics is unfalsifiable. It's aesthetically generated, and it has a kind of a liminal presence, and it structures how we think and how we organize facts. So here's where metamagic works, because metamagic draws on the old, the older magical, for lack of a better word, paradigms or older magical praxis as modes of thinking, and employs them as models to help us structure and understand and evolve ourselves. And this being said, there is a place on the other side of criticism. There's a place on the other side of skepticism. There's a place where even the most etic or distanced outsider rationalist view of magic is able to dive back into an enic mode, which is to enter into praxis and to learn things beyond the rational. We'll say the irrational, as Jean Gebser suggested. So metamagic is this recovery of magic within an integral model that embraces science, that embraces mysticism, that embraces spirituality, and that embraces our modern, or some would say postmodern, predicament, that of being on the edge of the creation of our world, and yet so far from being empowered to assemble the world that we wish for. And I think that as we begin to recover our old technicologies of thought, we will be able to assemble the world that we need for ourselves and for our children and for our grandchildren and for the 7 generations. There is a transformation, social, psychological, spiritual, on the horizon for the world, and I think you know that. And I think that's one of the reasons you chose to help me and to become patrons. So this is what I'm offering. This is what I'm pledging, because you have been kind enough to give me your time and to give me your good faith, and you've given me the time to go through the processes that I need to get to this place. And this place is simple. Every week, I'll make a video for you, and it's exclusive Patreon video. It's for people here, and I'll tell you a bit, I'll tell you a bit what's going on in my life, what I'm working on, who I am, and we'll do a little meditation. And I want to start with the real basics of this practice. So before I get to that, we'll do this meditation. But before I get to that, I'll tell you who I am. So, Dr. Peter Duchemin. I am a philosopher and artist and meditator. And I of course, I'm on Instagram. I have 3 accounts on Instagram. I have the Tarot Philosopher account, where every week I discuss a theme of the week based on a calendar system that I developed. I have a unique calendar system. A theme of the week based on a calendar system that I developed. I have a unique calendar system. Metasequential Artist is where I do my kind of nonlinear comic books, which also tie in to esoteric work and meditation on various themes. And then finally, I have recently created a site called a Vivid Apocalypse, which is where color works, and you can buy my art. But what unifies it all is an approach to time that I've developed over 25 years or so. My first major download, if you will, was in 2003, but there was stuff leading up to it. And I began to build calendars based on other planets in the solar system. And these calendars are magical calendars. And if you think of what a calendar is, it schedules work of some kind. In this case, the work is contemplation. And so I have a Mercury calendar that schedules contemplations on themes pertaining to intelligence. And in particular, the magical systems that it involves itself in is Enochian and tarot. And so the Mercury calendar kind of opened it all up. It's called the Thoth count. But after that, there was a Mars calendar. There's a Venus calendar, which is actually the easiest to follow. So most interactions people have with me relating to calendars are to the Venus calendar. Because the Venus calendar is a tarot calendar that schedules meditations week by week on the 32 major components of the tarot. So, for example, this week we're meditating on justice, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of coming back and readjusting my relationship to this Patreon account, and recommitting and bringing something to the table. I think that I owe those of you who have had the faith in me to become my patrons. So, that's the Venus count, and then there's the Mars count, and there is there's an Earth count. The Earth count's interesting and complex. I made my own Earth count, but I was recently commissioned in the last 2 or 3 years to build a calendar called the Fairy Dog count, and it starts in August, and it runs for the year, and it's one of the more sophisticated calendars I've developed. If you're interested in it, I have a and this is it. I have a zine. It was put together by Dr. Scott Jeffrey out in Perth, Kinross in Scotland, and who commissioned this calendar, and so he and I share this calendar, and it is, I think, one of the more sophisticated pieces of work that has manifested through me. So it's something we can explore. It has Enochian, Ogum, and Solomonic magic as its influences. And there's a lot more. I mean, you've seen my art. Here's some examples. I'm doing a lot of stuff, and it's all unified by praxis connected to ongoing meditation on a plurality of times, polytemporality, the idea that we live in several time streams at once, and the time streams have different rhythms and different densities, yet they interact with one another. And this is what I would call the auroristic temporality. So if you don't know what an orrery is, pause the video and go and look it up online, because it's important. We think of time typically as a single linear progression, like a railroad track. And we've inherited this model from the Industrial Revolution. So I'm proposing this, a temporality that's much more like a spinning solar system, an orrery, where we have multiple temporalities at different rhythms, at different rates, orbiting a central experience. And not everyone's on the same page. It's kind of a temporal polyglottism, if you will. And you think about it, we typically see time as one kind of thing and we measure it with a calendar, but every society has a different calendar. Some are more, some are less sophisticated. The Balinese calendar is quite amazing, the Mayan calendar. So there's much more going on under the surface of just your standard issue Gregorian calendar. So I invite you to explore that, and I invite you to recognize that time is not money, it's art. And so this is artful time. And working in and through esoteric calendrics, I have come to treat time as a production of ideascapes, visionary domains, and philosophical contemplations. And you're here because I guess what you've seen of this speaks to you. So what I'm pledging is that every week I'm going to do a short little video for you, and we're going to talk about something. I think I'll stick with the basics, but if you wanna go deeper, you can take my course. I have a course every 224 days, every Venus year, and there's a lot more happening. So I invite you to get involved on those levels. But if you just want to learn some of the basic techniques, stick around here, and we'll do something every week. So what are we going to do this week? We're going to start at the very, 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 very foundation of magical practice, which is the circle. And so here's the exercise. You need to find north, south, east, and west. So I know where it is here. North, south, east, and west. And why do you need to calibrate to the directions other than the books tell you to? Well, think about the immense labor that it took, the human intellectual labor that it took to discover the four directions. We take it for granted now because we make it look easy, but it would have taken thousands of years of human observation and archiving and research to accurately ascertain these four directions. And once these four directions were ascertained, what happened? We got religions that often had four-letter names like Zeus or Yahweh or Allah. Fourfold logics emerged that kind of preserved and enshrined this idea that knowledge of the four was key to essentially access to and domination of the world. And when I say domination, I'm sure this is triggering some red flags because people don't want to dominate the world. We want to be integrated with it. And on a certain level, of course, yes, we do ultimately, at the end of the day, release this domination. But imagine you're, hunter-gatherer society 10,000 years ago. The world is a dangerous place. So the fourfold logic emerge to help us command space. Once we know the directions, we have an incredible power of navigation and of map making. And so these old temples are all keyed to the four directions. Because knowing the circle and knowing the compass is the first access point to magic. You want to wield magic. You need to enshrine the compass rose in your heart. And so let's do a meditation together. You have learned where the directions are in relation to wherever it is that you are now. And now you're sitting comfortably in a safe place where you will be undisturbed. And breathing in and out. And imagine as you breathe in, that light is coming down from high, high above, as if you were a tree, reaching your branches up, opening your leaves and absorbing this light, slowing down the trunk, and enlivening the whole living organism that is your presence. And imagine also that you're breathing energy from deep below. Cool, nutritious, supportive energy, as if your roots We're immensely entangled with the soil, drawing its nutrients up, flowing them into the trunk, supporting and stabilizing and grounding your presence. Find that center trunk, that axis. And from this axis, you can feel absolutely centered. Like you're at the pivot point of your awareness. And you can see the north. And you can see the east. And you can see the south. And you can see the west. And as you look to the east, imagine the sun rising, cracking over the horizon, spreading beautiful fingers as it kisses the sky and marks a new day. And at the center of that vision, a line, like a shimmering membrane of light in a perfect 90-degree arc, sweeps from the center of the sunrise all the way around towards the south, forming a perfect quarter circle. And as you look towards the south, you can feel the warmth. And you can imagine the wake of the solar system as it trails its way around the disk of the Milky Way galaxy. And all the stars in the south, the southern triangle, the ship of Argos, the chameleons and the toucans, and all those constellations which are towards the South Pole. Imagine that their energy is there, supporting and holding space. And then from this awareness, let a line already joined to the quarter circle, forming a perfect 90-degree arc from the south all the way around up to the west. And now a perfect 180-degree semicircle around the central axis of the tree has been formed. And as you look out to the west, you can see the sun setting. And again, the fingers of light, of rosy light, kissing the clouds as that sun goes down and the moon begins to come up and the stars begin to shine. Venus is visible perhaps on the horizon, and Mercury. The sun goes down towards and into night, the sacred time when we will see into the depths of the universe. And to the west, watch the sunset. And then from the center of that sunset, the line continues in another 90-degree arc, all the way around and up to the north. And now you can imagine a clear night sky with no light pollution, such that you can see the arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the Orion arm in which we live. And you can see the stars twinkling. You can see Arcturus and Spica and Vega and Deneb. Deneb, where the solar system is heading. And then Polaris. Look up. There's Polaris, the North Star. And it seems that the axis of the heavens rotates around Polaris, the pole star. And we can orient knowing these directions, knowing these stars and these phenomena. We are empowered to be present and to occupy space. And from the center of the north, imagine that line continues all the way around through the night to sunrise in the east, completing the circle in one great sweep, like a snake eating its own tail. The magic circle has been cast from the east to the south, to the west, to the north, and back to the east. And see that cross moving directly through that center point, that center axis of the tree, whose arms reach high and spread into the heavens, and whose roots reach deep into the earth, drawing nutrients. Breathe in from above and below and into the center. And now, to hold the space, to center ground and stabilize the circle, we'll say the magic mantra 5 times. Sator Arepo Tenet Opera Rota Sator Arepo Tenet Opera Rota Sator Arepo Tenet Opera Rota Sator Arepo Tenet Opera Rotas Sator Arepo Tenet Opera Rotas. The word tenet forms a cross to the 4 directions, and we sit at the very center as the axis of the tree, as the letter N, the hub of the wheel. And the circle is like the boundary of a shimmering bubble. And we breathe in, enlivening and brightening our presence and our space, and we breathe out, carrying all stagnancy, all anxiety, all dullness out and back into the continuum where it is recycled, recirculated, and where it is transformed back into life. And by entering into energetic interdependence with the order of reality, our minds awaken and we hold the circle. We hold our awareness. We protect our space and we share our energy. The Ouroboros protects us. Visualize a crowned Ouroboros. Give thanks and let the vision vanish into the size of an atom, be stored in your heart, or fade from your immediate vision, knowing that it's present and that you can calibrate to it at any time and you can anchor or brace in this envisionment of the cross and the circle. This acts as a centering and grounding exercise that will help you keep your bearings and your orientation. So know your directions, be present in your circle. I hope you've enjoyed this exercise, and every week join me here in the exclusive Patreon magic lessons and weekly update as we explore meta magic together. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for having faith in me and joining me here. And do not hesitate to write me an email, write me a note, tell me what you think, and let's see how much true magic we can experience together.